You're covering everyone tonight. You make more money. Dad barked as the waiter dropped the $1,847 bill on our table. 14 people sat around me, smirking, sipping wine, already toasting to dessert. My sister's husband leaned toward me and whispered, "Finally useful for something." His breath reeked of expensive whiskey. I smiled. Quietly. Politely. The clink of glasses around me felt louder than usual. Every sound was a reminder. I didn't belong, not as family, not as daughter, not as sister, just as wallet. I pulled out my card and slid it across the table. The waiter, sensing the tension, gave me a sympathetic nod. I waited. Receipt signed.
Done.
Then I stood. Calmly.
Gently.
My voice didn't rise, but it cut through the noise like broken glass. "This was lovely," I said. "Also, I'm selling the apartment. I'm moving out next month." Forks dropped. Glasses froze midair. My mother's smile collapsed first. "What do you mean?" she hissed. "We're still living there." "You've been living there temporarily," I replied, "for 4 years." My father's face turned a deep shade of red. My sister's fork clattered to her plate. Her husband looked like someone just slapped him with a mortgage payment. No one spoke. The music from the restaurant speakers kept playing, too cheerful, too ironic. But in that moment I knew. They didn't fear losing the roof. They feared losing the control. And this was just the beginning. For years ago, I gave my parents the keys to my apartment for a few months after Dad claimed he was facing bankruptcy. "It's just until we get back on our feet," he'd said, with Mom nodding behind him like a trained echo. Back then, I believed them. I believed everything. That we were a family, that helping them meant love, that putting myself second was noble. But those few months turned into 4 entire years. 4 years of me sleeping in a tiny sublet, of skipping vacations, of working late to keep up with mortgage payments and repairs, of hearing them throw parties in my home through videos my cousins posted online. The same cousins now sitting at the table, eating steak on my dime. I walked out of that restaurant without looking back. Behind me, I could already hear the rustle of panic, Mom whispering to Dad, my sister hissing, "She's bluffing. Let them panic." That night, I emailed my lawyer to begin eviction proceedings. No more hints. No more family talks. No more waiting for decency to kick in. They thought I was bluffing. They had no idea I had already found a buyer. And by Monday morning, that buyer was knocking at their door. The knock at the door wasn't gentle. I knew the buyer wouldn't waste time. He was a no-nonsense real estate developer, and he didn't care whose feelings were hurt. My phone buzzed within minutes. "Mom, what is this man doing here?" "He says he bought the apartment?" "Your apartment." I didn't reply.
Dad called next.
Then my sister. Then her husband. Each call went to voicemail. At exactly noon, I received an email confirmation. Funds transferred. Property officially closed. Congratulations. That evening, my father's voice cracked through the phone. "You're really doing this? After everything we've done for you?" I breathed in, calmly. "You mean the way you've turned my generosity into a hotel stay for 4 years? Parties, upgrades, rent-free life."
He stammered.
"We're your family, and I was your doormat," I said quietly. "Not anymore." He fell silent. Then came the final blow. "We'll fight this. You can't just throw your own parents out like dogs." "You're right," I said, hanging up. "That's why I gave you a 14-day notice." What they didn't know yet was that the new owner didn't plan to wait that long. He'd already served them papers. And my sister's kids? They'd be packing up their toys by tomorrow. They showed up at my office the next day, uninvited. My mother had mascara streaked down her face. My father looked like he hadn't slept. My sister was crying. Her husband glared like I'd burned the house down myself. "You really sold it?" Mom whispered. I stood up slowly, walked around my desk, and leaned on the edge.
Calm.
Measured. Unshakable. "Yes." "But where will we go?" My sister cried. "You know we don't have savings right now." I raised an eyebrow. You mean after 4 years of living rent-free, spending every extra dollar on shopping and vacations, not once offering to help with groceries or bills? My father snapped. We thought you were family. Family doesn't kick each other out. I didn't blink. Family doesn't use each other. Family doesn't laugh when the waiter hands one person a $1,847 bill. Or whisper, finally useful. My sister's husband scoffed. You're bitter. That's why you'll end up alone. I smiled.
No.
I'm not bitter. I'm done. Then I opened a folder on my desk and slid it across the table. Inside were copies of the sale, the vacate notice, and a check, one I didn't know them. This is for moving expenses. You have 5 days now. My mother's lip trembled. You really mean it? I nodded once. And behind her, my sister's husband clenched his fists because he finally realized the gravy train was over. The 5th morning after the dinner bill debacle, I arrived home to find the living room looking like a war zone. Boxes were thrown open. Clothes, dishes, even personal journals of mine were tossed onto the floor. And in the middle of it all stood my sister's husband, arms crossed, smirking. We thought we'd help you pack. Speed things up, he said. Behind him, my sister stood with her arms full of my shoes. My parents were on the balcony, pretending not to notice anything. I didn't flinch. Put everything back.
Neatly.
He stepped forward.
No.
If you want us out in 5 days, fine. But we're taking what we deserve. Half the stuff is ours. I stepped toward the hallway and returned with a bag I had packed the night before. Actually, I said calmly, this is all you brought when you came here. 3 suitcases and a toaster. He blinked. I handed him the bag.
Take this.
And nothing else. He opened his mouth to argue. But then the elevator dinged. 2 uniformed men stepped out. Movers. And 1 plainclothes officer holding a clipboard. Everyone else is 4 hours, I said quietly. After that, the locks change. My sister burst into tears. My mother clutched her chest, and my father whispered, What happened to you? I turned to him slowly. I grew up. They tried to stall. My mother clutched the edge of the couch like it might keep her grounded. This is your home, she said. You can't just throw us out. But I had every legal receipt ready. The deed to the apartment, under my name only. The utility bills I'd been paying for 4 years. The bank transfers showing I covered every meal, every doctor's appointment, every school supply for my nieces. I laid them all out on the table, quietly, one by one. You said I make more money, so I should pay for everyone, I said, but money comes with choices. And I'm finally making mine. My sister looked around, desperate. Where will we go? I shrugged. Maybe your husband's family can return the favor. Or maybe the same hotel you told me to stay at when I got promoted. Dad stayed quiet, but the rage in his eyes was louder than any scream. You're punishing your family over 1 dinner bill? He hissed. No, I said, voice steady. I'm liberating myself after 4 years of being your silent agent. The movers rolled in quietly. Box by box, the life they leached off me was getting packed up. And as my mother started sobbing, my sister whispered, Wait, what else are you planning? I turned to my sister, calm as ever. Oh, I'm just getting started. She blinked rapidly. You're bluffing. I handed her an envelope. Inside is a copy of the lease termination, effective in 30 days. I'm not just selling the apartment. I already accepted an offer.
Cash buyer.
Closings in 2 weeks.
Dad stood.
You're kicking us out in the middle of winter? You all kicked me out emotionally years ago, I said. This is just logistics. My sister's husband scoffed. We've contributed. We helped around here. I turned slowly. You mean when you used my guest room as your office, took my parking spot, and ate the food I bought? Or when you told your kids not to touch Andy's weird books because ambition might be contagious? No one had anything to say. I picked up my coat, paused, then added, Oh, and the utilities? I just canceled them. They'll shut off in 48 hours. Mom cried harder. Dad looked like he wanted to scream, but didn't want to lose what little dignity he had left. And as I walked to the door, my niece tugged my sleeve. "Auntie, can I come with you?" I froze. But before I could respond, my sister grabbed her wrist and said,
No.
"She's not your daughter." I turned around slowly, crouching to meet my niece's eyes. "Sweetheart, you'll always have a place in my heart. When you're older, and if you ever need me, I'll be here." My sister yanked her daughter back like I was poison. "You're not taking my child just because you've got money now," she hissed. I laughed under my breath. "Don't worry. I wouldn't take anything that isn't mine. That's your family motto, right?" I opened the door. Dad called out, "You'll regret this. Family is everything." I stood in the hallway, looked back one final time. They stood there, panicked, small, and suddenly unsure of the fortress they'd built from my silence. I smiled. "You're right. Family is everything. That's why I'm starting fresh, with one that doesn't weaponize love, guilt, or obligation." Then I walked away. Within days, the new buyer finalized the deal. I moved into a quiet townhouse by the river. Peaceful.
Mine.
Utilities were disconnected right on schedule. They had to scramble for a motel on their own dime. My phone buzzed a week later. A message from my sister. "Can we talk? We didn't know how much we needed you." I let it sit unread. For once, I chose not to explain myself. I chose peace.